first time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KWEP In the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Cthulhu lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Cthulhu to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Kristus rides again. Kristus returns. Welcome back to In the Keep. How are you?
Thank you. I'm quite well, actually. I've had half a bottle of whiskey this evening, so I am a bit more tipsy than I'm usually at around this time, depending on situations, of course. So I'm gonna perk myself up with a cup of coffee right now.
Okay, so tell me again about this Jalapeno Vodka.
So I guess the top story of tonight is that this summer I made a Jalapeno Vodka, and that was such a smashing success that I drank it all in an evening, basically. And then I figured, if strong is good, why not make it stronger? So I took habanero vodka and made that, and that has been standing on my coffee table for the last 6 months. And the red jalapenos have turned yellow. I don't think they've turned bad. I just think they've been bleached by the alcohol.
So yeah, they're floating in the vodka, right?
Yeah. So there's 2 jalapenos in this. Let's see, it's 35 milliliters. I'm not sure how that is pronounced to ounces, but it's like half a bottle of whiskey, or half a bottle, you know?
Like a 750 milliliter bottle?
Yeah, so that's half that.
See, you have the benefit, because it's like almost insulting when I talk to you guys, all you European fucks, or basically anyone that's not American. They assume I don't know the metric system.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I work in the science field. I understand it.
I'm sorry. I realize that now after I said it, that
no,
you're an educated man.
So you know that, like, I grow peppers, right? Like, it's kind of one of my biggest hobbies, and I like habaneros. Go ahead.
I think I heard something about that, right? I'm not sure though. But
well, the main thing is that on Twitter, like 90% of what I talk about is just me and Rotten Rose going back and forth about gardening shit, which is like this. That's why I had to separate me from In the Keep. I'm like, I can't be tweeting about my fucking gardenias on the In the Keep account.
I didn't.
So I made a separate profile.
No, I have to follow. Have I missed following you then?
I don't know. It's at Ty Brennan. My current name is the Marmalade, which it doesn't make any sense.
The Marmalade, yeah. I'm following you. Why have I missed this then? Probably because I'm a terrible Twitter user.
I mean, there's no such thing as a good Twitter user.
Well, either you use it too much and you're doing it wrong that way.
I guess it depends on what your goals are. If your goal on Twitter is to just post whatever you want, and you're not caring about how many people follow you or whatever, then cool. That's what that profile is for.
I have to be honest. Had it not been for Doombringer or stuff like that, I would not have a Twitter account at all.
Oh, if it weren't for In the Keep, I would not have a Twitter account, period. No way. But I've got to have a public presence of some kind, and it won't be on Facebook. So
I do enjoy
Parler got shut down.
liking Rotten Rose and Jahar's tweets. That is true.
So, anyway, circle all the way back around. What I was getting at is that habaneros, while they're delicious in certain ways, like any pepper at all, there's a line between flavor and spice that a lot of people don't seem to understand, right? Like, so a habanero is much, much spicier than a jalapeno or something like that. And it has a distinct flavor. It's not quite in the realm of like, why do people eat this crap to me? Like ghost peppers and like Carolina Reaper. I have no fucking idea. Scotch bonnets even. Why do people eat this crap? It doesn't taste good. It's just horrible.
There is a, hedonist? The ones that make the sauces for Now We Feast. I had a ghost pepper sauce from them, and I really loved it. It was so good.
But was it just ghost peppers, or was it like mixed with tomato or something to counterbalance?
No, it was mostly. I can't say truly now. I probably should go get the bottle and read the ingredients, but I'm not sure if that's. But it was. I don't think it was as spicy as ghost pepper, though.
I'm sure it's like it's got some other it's got some vinegar, obviously, if it's a hot sauce. It's got some salt. It's maybe some kind of like habanero. You usually counterbalance it with something like habanero ketchup is really good. Habanero. Mango habanero sauce. Like, I don't know if you guys have that there, but we put it on pizza in the Southwest. Like, it's like, but just to eat a straight habanero is terrible.
Yeah. Hot sauce in Sweden is not something that's fairly common,
Yeah.
We pretty much import anything from USA if we do. There are some companies, of course, but they're not comparable to what you have in USA.
I'm not too far from Hatch, New Mexico, which is like the home of the chili pepper. Hatch chilies are world famous, and I don't know. We're supposed to be talking about video games. We started off talking about vodka and hot peppers. But I guess that's okay.
Hopefully, someone found it enjoyable. I did.
I'm sure. I'm sure our listeners will be okay.
So
I'll have Brandy timestamp it out. Just skip to this point.
The reason I brought up this vodka was because I finished this whiskey. It was a Highland Park whiskey. Now we come into promotional here. Highland Park, send me your money because this is a commercial.
Dude, nothing would make me happier than to have an alcohol sponsor for the podcast. I wouldn't even have them pay me. I'd just be like, send me free booze, man.
Well, I wouldn't deny that. that would be an offer I couldn't refuse. But I finished that one before we even started streaming or recording. So then I remembered I have this vodka when you talked about bringing out your vodka. So I thought, okay, if nothing else, I have my vodka here. So if someone hears me saying something like... So that is why.
What makes Swedish vodka different than a regular, like a Russian style vodka or something else?
Well, it's pretty shit. I think that's the biggest difference. The vodka I've tried, I can't say I've found a good vodka so in Sweden we have this monopoly for alcohol, so people don't buy too much alcohol, because back in the day we drank like the average Swede drank like half a bottle of vodka every week or something like that.
Oh no, God. How could you possibly do that? I would never dream of drinking that.
Well, remember that most Swedes probably didn't drink that much, and then there were a few Swedes that drank a lot.
Yeah, it's like, so if the average is half a bottle, most people don't drink more than a few glasses like a month. Then the other people are drinking like 3 or 4 handles a day.
Something like that, yeah.
So something like 10% of the population were drunks.
Exactly. So
It's a free country, right?
it is. We are the alcohol monopoly is probably the biggest contender for something like that. But I forgot where I was going with this. But something. Yeah, I completely forgot what I was going with talking about this.
Well, you
But,
were telling me the difference between Swedish vodka and Russian style vodka.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about it feels like I don't like Swedish vodka. I can say that much. But the vodka found on the Swedish Systembolaget, System Company, I think would be a translation for it. It's hard. I haven't found any vodka that I truly like. Like people generally say who know vodka say Smirnoff is bad vodka, and
It's kind of like one of the cheaper brands. It's not
Yeah.
like Aristocrat, but it's Sky. Those are like the bottom shelf kind of drinks.
yeah, and that is one of the better vodkas I've had myself. But in the meantime, we have a lot of really good whiskey on the shelves. So I think it's just based on what people drink as well, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I think generally speaking, whiskey wise, the American South, like the Appalachian region, like Kentucky, they're probably the best. And then also, obviously, people like Scotch a lot. So cheers to the Scots. But I don't know. I like vodka because I'm a fucking fat boy, and so
You're not
I have to
fat.
count. No, I'm really not. But I'm look, man. I hold myself to a high standard for physical training, and so like I can't drink whiskey and maintain the body that I feel belongs on me. Right. So if I drink a bunch of, or even beer, like I'm kind of like famously a beer guy, but like I just decided at some point, like, okay, look, I need to taper off of the.
Hang on now,
a little
Ty.
bit.
We spoke on Discord. I know you're a lager guy. You're not a beer guy. You're the lager guy.
So you don't consider lager beer? Because I think most people consider lager beer, and then ale is considered like its own thing, right? Like that's it.
Okay.
I understand that. To me, they're both technically beer, but like ale is ale, and you should know this because you're fucking Scandinavian.
But I wouldn't say I'm a beer guy. Then I would say I'm an ale guy. You know?
But I'm not an ale guy. I drink.
No,
beer.
you'd say you're a lager guy.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Right. If I'm drinking beer, I prefer lager. Does that mean I won't drink an ale? Depends on the ale.
Depends on the lager, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. But I don't know. I like vodka because it's delicious. It mixes well with pretty much everything. It's low calorie. It's got whatever. So I can drink a shitload of vodka, wake up the next day and run 5 miles and not feel bad about myself.
I've had Russian vodka came in a little bit of Swedish there. I drank vodka where I basically just down the bottle like it is on an evening, no problem. And then I drank vodka that tastes like a potato. So, yeah.
I've always been bewildered that the Russians figured out how to make alcohol out of potatoes before the Irish did.
Well,
like
I guess the Irish made
my ancestors
whiskey instead.
It's crazy though, but because we're like Irish people are famously potato people. Like we had after they brought potatoes back from America, they did everything except make vodka. I'm like, how did that get past them? I guess they were already too drunk on whiskey to like figure it out. But I guess it was kind of the same time because corn also came from America.
I guess Irish whiskey is the potato whiskey of. I don't know I don't think they made it from potato, of course, because they made it from rye. But it's sort of like vodka because it doesn't taste anything.
Irish whiskey. I don't know. There is really good Irish whiskey out there, but so the story, the historical. You're a history teacher, right?
No, I'm I'm a math and Swedish teacher. If you talk school, if you talk it's complicated. But I work more after school work, which involves basically anything that the students are more interested in. So if they are interested in making movies, we're making movies. If they're
It sounds
interested
like
in,
you guys have such a fantastic educational system that I missed out on.
oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That sounds like really fun.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with my work. That is, I wouldn't want to change it for any other profession, really. Of course, you come home and you're completely exhausted every day.
I like teaching, man. I mean, teaching meteorology to my students has been one of the more rewarding things. I mean, I still work with them actively, like we're doing the work, but my job is to educate them on how to do their job. So it's not like very rarely, every once in a while, I'll have like a classroom kind of setting, but usually I'm like on the job training people. But anyway, back to my story.
Yes.
The deal with Irish whiskey is that during Prohibition in the United States, people were literally, like making alcohol in their bathtubs and shit. Like there was no mass production alcohol. So the Irish whiskey that was being produced during that time was garbage. And it became like known amongst people that like Irish whiskey sucks. So it lost its popularity completely. And then after Prohibition, that stigma stayed there. However, there are good Irish whiskeys, for sure, still.
And to clarify, I was just being a bit trollish there because I think Irish whiskey definitely has its place. And it was through Irish whiskey I came to appreciate whiskey in general, really. So hats off to Irish whiskey.
I always go a long time without drinking whiskey because I'm afraid I'm just going to like turn into a fucking freak nasty monster or something when I drink it. But every time I drink it, I feel it's like in my blood. It's like I can feel the Irish genes activating in my body, and they're just like, they react to it. It's like, this is the greatest thing in the world, which is what keeps me afraid of it. I'm like, no. I'm not supposed to feel that way. I'm supposed to just like enjoy it and then move on with my life.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same, really. I am wary to buy the whiskey home because I know how fast it gets consumed once I have it in my vicinity. It's so easy to just take a bit of whiskey every day after work or something like that.
Yeah, you got all good things in moderation, including moderation.
Yep. So.
Anyway, we came here to talk about video games. So when the last time we talked, Doombringer was mostly like a multiplayer arena FPS game, and since then you've put a lot more effort into the single player experience, and that seems to be kind of the flagship product at this point. Can you tell us kind of a little bit of how that came to be and what your journey's been so far?
Yes, I would like to I would like to add a small addition to that as also that when we last played, we had a bit of a technical issue with the multiplayer, and I figured that out shortly after, so we didn't have the crashes. But right before Christmas also, we added some much needed improvements to multiplayer as well, so we now have some proper client prediction and lag compensation going on. So the experience is a lot better there as well. So, but single player most definitely is the flagship experience. It has always been the end goal for Doombringer, even though we started with multiplayer because I had an idea for making a single player game from a multiplayer experience. Now that has changed. Not the idea hasn't changed, but it has had a few interesting consequences. Like some things have changed for the single player aspect, but we kept them separate from the multiplayer. So there are a few differences between the two modes in how, like, the rocket launcher is more powerful in single player than it is in multiplayer.
As it should be.
Yeah, and you don't have fall damage in single player, while you do have it in multiplayer. And in multiplayer, it's mostly because it's so funny when someone gets cratered. Because, I mean, you get the decal where it says, where it shows how you face planted into the ground, and you can laugh at that. But yeah, so a lot have happened since. I mean, it's a little bit over a year since we talked, and back then we had like 3 maps, and now we're closing in on finishing the first episode, which will be 9 maps, including the secret level. We only really have 1 map left to quote unquote complete before we send it out to testing and get a few comments from people saying, but do we need to adjust to make it more approachable for everyone?
So is the plan to put it in early access or to just play? Okay.
We struggled with that decision for the longest time, because first we wanted to give it away from free, because we didn't think people would buy it because it was such a niche product.
Don't ever say that to me again.
But then we're convinced that people would probably still give it a go, as long as we don't charge an exorbitant fee for it. And it will also help with making sure. So if people buy this version and we just put out the new episodes, like on top of that, then we wouldn't make a shift between people who has that episode and that. So we wouldn't shield off future content from people making maps or playing the multiplayer version or anything like that, you know.
Dude, you're upsetting me. Don't ever say that people wouldn't pay for it. They definitely would. You're providing them right out the bat with an episode of 9 levels. And to be fair, because some people may 9 levels. No, these are not like short levels. These are like really good sprawling levels with lots of exploration and everything in them. And you're giving them an arena FPS game within that. And if you sell this thing out the gate in early access, if you sell it for less than $15, I'm going to fly to fucking Sweden and slap you in the mouth. You're crazy. I don't know that I couldn't actually get into the country right now because of the fucking pandemic.
Too much COVID.
But don't ever say that shit to me again. Like your work is worth money, and the work that you and everyone else who's contributed to this product is not free. Get that out of your head right now. Your math teacher, apparently. Don't fucking tell me that you don't understand how this works.
Oh, I understand how math works. I just don't understand how people work, always.
That's very common with math people. So anyway, now that we're back on video game topics, Doombringer itself, what are your current? What is currently holding you back from publishing it? What are the things that you would like to improve before you put it out to the public?
Okay, yeah. So Reki, who is the guy who made the client prediction stuff, he is doing some polishing on a few things, but the real things that we are still waiting to get complete is sound effects and the music. And I also have to finish the final level of the episode, the boss level. Now, since we weren't ready, we talked about it, and then we said either we postpone it a month or we postpone it 2 months, and then we probably won't have to postpone it another month once we fail that target. And that is my sincere hope that won't happen. But the good part of that, of course, is that whenever should we have to postpone again, which I doubt, there's like no reason why we shouldn't be able to make it in 2 months. At least I will have more time to do a lot of other polishing stuff. Like there's always more things you can do to improve minor things. But like the first episode will be inspired by the Doom episode 1, essentially. Like it will be a primer for what will come, but what will come will be a lot more esoteric, you could say.
Yes.
So this is more like more grounded, and then we'll go into exploring more extravagant themes and ideas for level design.
Yeah, speaking of the first episode just in its entirety, I can't wait for Civi to play it on his YouTube channel so that he can be angry that nearly every single level of the first episode is in fact a gigantic sewer.
Yeah. In a way it is, yeah.
I mean, even like the levels that aren't right sewer levels still have sewers in them, kind of. It's like there's always some sort of waterway going.
Yeah, I mean, technically, every map in the, not more or less, except the secret level and technically the first level are submerged underground. So I guess it's just another level of sewer. But I've been very conscientious about making them as interesting as possible without going for the gimmicks like tricks and traps and stuff like that, because I wanted to make a real solid first establishing the world where the enemy lives in. And that really doesn't truly come into its own until the penultimate level, because then you get into their habitat, whereas the other ones are just levels above that, in this machine city. And I actually play a little bit. Oh, there we go. There's a beer pop. And I play a little bit with this sewer idea in E1M6 with the introduction. We have an L shape, which is just a straight up sewer area, which you then leave. But technically, the entire map is an extravagant sewer, you could say.
Yeah. I think that E1M7, just from what I've literally just before we started this played through everything that you have so far, just kind of refresh my memory and also get caught up. And you said that you were particularly proud of that level. I can really feel your Doom repertoire come out in that level, as a matter of fact. So I was kind of hoping you would elaborate a bit on why that level is special to you.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So a lot of the visual design, so it's a lot of different parts, the visual design of Doombringer, I've taken inspiration from Doom with how colors work, how textures work, and how level design work, Now I messed them up. But no, yeah, how level design work as well. And then we have the gameplay part, which has a lot more influences, I'd say. Like it has Quake, it has Doom, it has Quake 3, and a bit of Dark Souls. And I say that with a bit of hesitation because that has become a bit of a meme, of course, the Dark Souls of whatever. But the way the enemies work is that even if you drop your guard, even the simplest enemy can kill you. Like in Dark Souls and those games. But they really shouldn't be a challenge if you know how to approach them. And E1M7 is like, whereas the other maps are more, okay, now we're bringing up the level. Now we're introducing this. Now we're introducing that. E1M7 is more like, okay, now we've introduced all these things. Now let's see what you can do as a player to deal with them. It's the penultimate map of the episode. It's definitely the hardest map. Maybe the boss map might be a bit more difficult, but it won't be as much of a test of your consistency, because it's not as long as a map. So so it doesn't introduce anything new really. It just takes all these things and lift them up to a level where you have to be it's the longest map, it's the hardest map. It brings all these things into the pot, and oh god damn it, I can't find the word. And basically it feels the most Doom inspired. It feels like the most Doom map of all of them.
Yes.
That's
even down to the point where like the very first room is just a bunch of doors, and then you kind of like slowly release enemies upon yourself as you go through it. Whereas a lot of the earlier levels are kind of Quake-like, where it's next encounter. But that particular map, E1M7, it feels as though each time that you make progress, you are then making the choice to release more enemies to attack you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it also has the biggest fights of all of them as well, which
for sure.
And when one monster can kill you in a second, or rather a couple of seconds if you don't watch out, that can become quite the challenge. But so far I've had really good feedback from the difficulty of it. I have had feedback that the hard levels should be harder earlier, but at the same time I kind of feel like it's at a good level, but maybe a little bit harder in the earlier maps, because people don't play the hard level to just chill out and have fun. So there's no reason to not crank it up a bit earlier, maybe. Normal, I think. Easy needs to be easier, because there's no reason to be gatekeeping on the easy level, and normal would be good to relax a bit so you can have some fun without being too challenged or being just the right amount challenged. It's a tightrope to walk, and I'm waffling.
I tell everyone who will listen to me, honestly, that anybody who's a content creator, or even if you're just a playtester, right? You should always start on normal, because normal should be the mode that most people gravitate towards, and it should feel like it should be challenging to someone who is not an expert FPS player, period. Right? Like we've seen this, we have dozens of examples, so there's really no excuse not to do it. Right? So Half-Life was pretty imbalanced, I think, in terms of the difficulty levels. Like if you're playing Half-Life on hard, there's no like pain states in Half-Life. So essentially what happens to make it hard is that you just have to shoot the enemy more. That's the only real difference between normal and hard. So there's not a lot of incentive to play on hard unless you're just a masochist.
Yeah.
And in Quake, famously, the default difficulty is hard. Like most people who are really into Quake just straight up play on hard. They never even try the normal or the easy mode because
that's the same in Doom as well. Really, people go into ultra violence as that is the default, and then they complain about it being too hard and just ignore and that is of course a problem for them. But I also know that most level designers, they tend to test for hard, so they test something that they can manage.
Yeah.
Okay, I can just about get through this, so it's not too hard to get through, and then they pull that back because it's so hard to know what is normal when it's your own map. Like you said earlier when we were discussing on PMs, I know everything that is going to happen, probably. I can at least predict it, more or less, because I know where every item is and stuff like that. So for a level designer, it's always easier to make the hard levels first and then pull back from that and then show it to others and see how they react to it,
Yeah. I mean, I very much feel like what you're saying is correct. That the issue with the game designer themselves QA testing their own game is that everything. Like there's no one who knows this game more intimately than you do. So you should ideally be pretty damn good at it. And so then your idea of what is and what is not difficult will inevitably be skewed. That's what the value of having QA testers is, really.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the hunt for any opinion that someone will share with me. We have had a lot of speedrunners test it, and they seem to love it. So that's positive. But and they always play on easy, of course. Well, not always, but for just any percent, easy is of the obvious choice because for the most part anyway. So because then you can don't have to worry about a gajillion monsters shooting you. But so it's always a tightrope to walk because you never know what someone else will find easy or what they find hard. I remember about 10 years ago, I released a Heretic episode, and I thought I had tested it, but I hadn't tested it like with a wide span of people. So I admit I had missed out on maybe getting it tested with people of what you could call lower skill or more casual players. And I was surprised to see that people would think the easy skill level was difficult, because I could basically play through in my sleep,
Yeah.
I always had plenty of health and stuff. But that was me, of course. So it was something to consider, trying to get as many people to playtest as possible, especially when you're not just giving it away from free, because if I give it away from free, it doesn't matter if 5 people play it or if 100 people play it. Doesn't make a difference to me as a content creator, because then you just make it for your own benefit, really.
I think the FPS community could learn a lot about difficulty scaling from kind of the RPG community. Like if you You look at, let's just take The Witcher 3 for example, right? The names of the difficulty scales are like, just the story, and then it's like story and sword, and then it's like blood and broken bones, and then it's just like total fucking mayhem or whatever it's called. I think BioShock, while it's still technically a first-person shooter, has like a similar kind of thing going on where they lay out for you like, with this difficulty setting, you're getting this much, and before you ever make the decision to pick one. Whereas, we in FPS community, it's all kind of based on Doom and Quake. It's like this idea that it's just we put crazy ass names on it, and we don't give you any like idea. It should be assumed by you as the player that is a bit of gatekeeping there. And I also feel like there's a culture within like the Doom community is like, if you're not playing on ultraviolet, you're a little bitch. I'm like, man, I don't think so. Like, I think we should encourage anyone who wants to play, or else you're cutting off a major part of your potential audience for buying it. So it's weird. Bridgeburner has been very good at it, even though he makes literally slaughter maps. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said before, like the default option for people are ultra violence, and then they complain about it being too difficult.
Doom Eternal set that fucking straight, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, normal is the default, but sometimes I think easy should be the starting point. And if you think, okay, this is too easy, I should chalk it up a notch,
Normal should be for people who have experience in FPS games. Easy should be for people who do not have experience.
Yeah, but what is an FPS game though? Like if your FPS game is Call of Duty or CS or something like that, you probably have a decent aim or something, but you don't know how to move.
Your game's unique in that it takes the advanced movement into account, because most people are used to like just the a version of moving that exists in real life, right? Like something that's based on how we move in real life. Whereas Doombringer is you move, without oversimplifying it, very, very similarly to the way that you move in Quake Live and Quake 3. So
yeah, and I mean, so you can say, okay, you're used to FPS game, but are you used to this kind of FPS game? So it's a complication there as well. And if you're used to Doom, then you might be more used to this. But if you or if you're used to Quake Live, like you said, then you might be more like Reiki, who is coming from playing Reflex and those games. He doesn't have a problem with it, but it's so many, like FPS genre is a very wide one. It's not like it's like saying third person genre, and then you have RPG games, you have so that's why we have AFPS as a subgenre or something like that. But even then,
I guess what I'm saying is that when the player is selecting the difficulty should not be some esoteric sounding bullshit. It should just say what they should expect, right? Let's say BioShock, right? BioShock's, I actually found it. It's easy, you're new to shooters. Medium, you've played other shooters. Hard, you've played a lot of shooters, and that's disabled until you beat it on medium. Like, you can't even touch it.
But even then,
yeah.
But even then, you're immortal in BioShock.
That's true. You just respawn.
But yeah, it's and there's a lot of things like that taken into consideration as well, like with menu, like Tim, who is the namesake of Tim Conlan. He mentioned that he would like to see, like in Half-Life, you have this. You check, you got a progression bar, how far you come through the game, and you can click on the image to play that section or start playing from that section, And he asked for that, and those are things I would like to add as well,
Steam already kind of does that for you, doesn't it? I guess it's based on achievements, not on progress necessarily.
I like Steam has very little to do with the integration. Or rather, there is very little in Steam integration into the game, like with what's it called, Wrath. Since we're using a GPL engine, we can't just plot Steam integration in there because conflicting licenses.
No, it's the same thing with GZ Doom.
Yeah. But I could make a system like that. But the problem is, I have made a system that allows you to easily set up your own map set if you were to make one. Mm-hmm. So it shows up in the menu with a little bit of backstory or something like that. So we have to expand that because we can't just hard code in those the level progression and stuff. Then we have to make something more modifiable, that is set up through external files.
So are you making Doombringer maps in like Trench Broom?
No, because Trench Broom doesn't really support Quake 3 map BSP.
Okay.
So Scarecrow, who made E1M1, or rather blocked out E1M1 and E1M5, he made in Trench Broom, but I'm making it in a version of NetRadiant that's called Garrux NetRadiant, or custom NetRadiant, which is similar to Trench Broom. It has a lot of the same functionalities, but it's
better
specific.
For Quake 3 and Quake 5, yeah. So ideally, though, like when you release this game, people will be able to bust out NetRadiant and make their own custom maps for Doombringer. Yeah. Okay.
That's my peak hope is that to have a map making community, which makes single player or multiplayer maps and play cooperative games together and stuff like that. So it would be the dream, to have something.
Of course. I mean, you come from the Doom and Quake kind of communities. Like you should understand the importance of that's what makes longevity in a game, right? The community interaction.
Yeah, it's something, but it's a pipe dream, of course. I mean, I've seen like I don't know if you remember the game made by Carnival. Wait, you had Carnival
Rack.
on your Rack.
Carney's been on the show at least 2 times.
Yeah, I did watch those streams or listen to those podcasts actually. So it took me a second to remember that you actually had that. So he had the level editor, but and there were a few maps there. I played a few of them, but his idea for making the level editor, it was just, I don't think it was user friendly enough for people to really get into. And I can't say that Radiant might not be friendly enough either. It's more friendly, but it's not Doom. It's not Doom.
Trench Broom. People like Trench Broom. People know Trench Broom.
Trench Broom and Doom friendly, Doom builder friendly. That's where anyone can make a map and it will be something. So, but you can make maps in Trench Broom. I just wouldn't recommend finishing them in Trench Broom.
Yeah. Speaking of, Scarecrow, like what they're doing with Graven, I think is absolutely fucking fantastic. Where they're making the maps in Trench Broom and then with no textures or anything, and then finishing them in Unreal 4, and that's Chris Holden's baby, and it's very, very cool and impressive. I'm stoked about it. Actually, just the fact that you can take guys like Dump Truck, JCR, Chris himself, Scarecrow, like they're able to take the skills that they've developed over years of Quake and Doom mapping in Trench Broom and use that to make an Unreal 4 game, that's revolutionary. Like that's never happened before as far as I know.
Yeah.
But it opens up so much talent while still being able to have like really cool features that you could only have in Unreal 4.
Yeah, I'm excited for playing Graven once it's released.
Yeah.
It's I enjoyed the demo. Unfortunately, I couldn't save in it, so once I shut it down, I realized I had to start over from the beginning, and
I had the same problem.
I was like, nope, not gonna do that because I'm gonna start hating this beginning if I keep doing that.
I mean, it's not a terribly long demo. If you got 30 minutes or so,
Well,
you can pretty much knock it out.
Yeah, I ran into a problem with the menu because I always have to reset my controls because I never used the default. I don't use the WASD, and I don't use mouse click for shooting, etc. So I go back and forth between the menu when I start a new game to set the controls to what I want, and then the menu started to mess up for me, and have this long. It just froze the game for like a minute at a time or something.
Yeah, there are some optimization issues with Raven that I hope will be ironed out over time. I'm sure that, I mean,
so I ended up
can't afford not to.
Yeah. So I ended up having to restart it or closing it down, and then but I had come pretty far in the demo. I was pretty much close to the end, so it wasn't like I missed out on anything. I had lit the lighthouse and everything. So
yeah.
And
so what's it like? No, go ahead, finish.
As a major Hexen fan, I'm looking forward to playing more of it. So
my question was going to be working with Scarecrow on Doombringer. What's that been like for you?
Oh, it's been really good actually. Surprise! He's been a very constructive help on the project. Least of all with structuring things and making for some quality assurance pipeline. Basically, you wrote down a document for this is what the maps should be. This is the limits, something to relate to, but you don't really have when you're just making mods.
Yeah.
He's
been on the show and I've interacted with him a lot, especially since Realms Deep and everything. He's got a very different talent for analyzing games than the vast majority of people, or just anything. It's not just games. Like he is an analytical talent that is not normal for human beings. He was telling me about his suggestion to you to change the weapons damage, I believe, from 25% to 23 or something like that. Something that was just like slightly off. And how, and when he explained it to me, and when I play the game now, it's like, wow, that was genius. I never would have thought of that. But like his ability to think like that and to like innovate things in that manner is invaluable. I mean, I can't even imagine how it must feel on your end.
Yeah, it's he's been a great help really, and it's really enjoyable to speak to as well about games in general because he has so many. It's funny how a lot of the games we enjoy a lot of the same things and we dislike a lot of the same things, Yeah. But he has a lot more. This is why this game doesn't work, So, whereas I have more like a feeling of why I don't like a game,
I'm the same as you. Like I just have like an idea of like I just don't like this, and well, why? Because I don't like it. That's not good enough. Like that doesn't help me fix the problem. Whereas he can tell you exactly what the issue is. Like he can dial down to a microscopic level of this is why this is an issue, or this is why this is good, and explain it in a way that makes it digestible to the layman, which is me. So, I mean, that's incredibly useful. I mean, I would hire, if I were Fred Schreiber, I would hire him immediately. So,
yeah, and it's really good to talk to him also after I played the game, and I don't enjoy it. Usually, that's when I need to talk to someone about it. But if I enjoy it, I just say, "Oh, I like this game. You should try it." But if I don't like it, I usually need to talk to someone about it, because then I'm frustrated. So I played one. Yeah. So I played one game. I can't remember which one it was right now, but I was so frustrated after playing it, because I wanted to like it, but at the same time, when I shit on a game, I feel guilty because I know how much work went into.
I feel the same. As a general rule, I just don't shit on people's games. I talk about things that I like.
Yeah, so I want to talk to someone I knew probably would have a similar opinion of the game as me. Mm-hmm. But I wrote to him saying something like, "Okay, I really don't like this game." And then I wrote something, "Okay, I'm sorry for being a terrible person," or something like that. And he was like, "That was the most tuned down tantrum I've ever seen," or something like that.
Okay.
So because I was like, "I really don't like this game. I'm sorry," but so I wanted to basically just shit all over it, but I couldn't force myself to it quite. And he was just supportive. So he's a great guy to have around, and yeah, all the love to him. Yeah. I can't find the words that I was looking for. Sorry.
It's okay. It's not your first language.
But yeah, so nothing but good opinions about the Scarecrow, really.
Who else is working on this thing? Like, you got Scarecrow, you got Matt. I love Matt. Big Matt fan all day.
Yeah. We have
is there anyone else?
We have a Scarecrow, Matt. Matt is doing the sound effects, doing a bang-up job. Then we have Primeval making the music. He's
fucking super talented.
Kicking out some really great tracks.
What is he not working on right now? Holy, he's got you. He's got HL. I believe he's working. Is he working with Scumhead on?
I'm pretty sure he is, because wherever there is music needed, Primeval says, "I'll make the soundtrack." I think he might have taken. He has been slowing down with his output towards Doombringer compared to a few years ago when we were first getting into it. So I think he might have a lot on his plate right now.
He's got a lot on his plate for sure. I mean, like, there's a few different people in this scene. Like, I don't want to talk about just like generally. We're not going to say, Mick Gordon, he's out, but like the people that are like part of this genre that are also making really incredible music for it. I mean, like Primeval is actually recently kind of come on my radar. Like I knew he was working on your game and that kind of shit, but I didn't think of him as like all right, this is someone I need to really pay attention to. And then, the Bridge Burner stuff, apparently, I just feel like an asshole if I'm getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's worked on stuff or is working on stuff with Scumhead. John Weekly,
I think I'm pretty sure he made the soundtracks for Shrine and Shrine 2.
But he's like he's stepping up. He's definitely on my radar. Hexencraft is another guy. Obviously, Holschild.
And Marky Music, of course.
Marky Music all damn day. Like we can't. He's even doing like sound design now, not just music, but like he's stepped into a whole
doing all of the sound
and
for
mapping.
Viscera Fest, right?
He's like a renaissance man of retro FPS at this point.
Yeah, making Quake maps.
If I were Fred Schreiber, I'd hire him.
Yeah, Fred, hire everyone.
Well, he did. He did hire him. And then a morpher, like I think a morpher is just for what he's like a guy who only does one thing, and what he does so well that it's undeniable. And it's like you don't need it for every project, but when you need it, you know who to call, right? And the other more exciting thing for me is MK Schmidt. You know him, did Paradox Vector, Star Explorers, that kind of shit. He's got this program called Anomalies, right? Which is basically a random generator almost, but you can kind of tweak it or fuck with it a lot. And if I were an indie developer, right, and I didn't have a lot of money to create things, or let's say I were just creating a Doom map pack or a Quake map pack, something like that, and I need some like ambient music, but I don't want to pay someone to do it. If you were to just take a little bit of extra time to learn that program, and then you're willing to take the audio you get from it, go to Audacity or something cheap like that, and tweak around with it, fuck with it, you can come out with some really good sounding ambient music from that program. And it's like $3 on Steam. And he's said multiple times, like, I'm totally cool with this going out to commercial projects.
Yeah.
So like that kind of shit is also talking about soundtracks. Like,
Speaking
if you could,
of creative juggernauts, I mean, MK Schmidt has been, I don't know, he seems to be like just a machine of creating things.
I mean, he's an artist. Like he's not a game designer. Like he's a fine artist.
Things just come from him, it seems.
He's literally like he's been a painter and a sculptor for his entire life. He's an older guy. You know, he's much.
Is he older than me?
How old are you?
41.
He's up there. He's my mom's age, so he's like pushing 50 area. Which is funny because when I talk to MK, like I bounce back and forth because he usually goes by Mike, but I've kind of deemed him MK because of that. But when I talk to him, I feel like he's like on the same wavelength as me. Like if I'd lived a different life and just gone through different experiences, I would be him. He's so like, he's so cool. He's one of the most intellectual people I've ever gotten the chance to interact with. And I mean, like Star Explorers and Paradox Vector are both kind of rough projects, but I know that if he can find his footing, and I think Star Explorers will continue to improve, like he's going to work on that game a lot to get it where he wants it to be. Cause that's like his magnum opus. Like that was his artistic vision. I think he's going to rock the world, man. Like he's just so full of creativity, as you said.
Yeah, I went into Star Explorers and looked around a bit, but I just didn't have time to submerge myself into it, unfortunately. Seems like a fantastic piece of software.
He's on to something with that thing. That's another example of like, it's not about the programming or the visual or anything like that. It's like, it's so, and I'm sorry that you didn't get the chance to immerse yourself in it, because what's special about that game is that it is so immersive. Like you just really,
I'm sure I will get to it eventually,
but you're working on your own game.
Things just need to calm down first. So hopefully I will get around to it. But because that's something it's certainly a lot of it feels very interesting to me to really get into that, because games like that are few and far between these days, where you don't know everything going into it. There's not going to be a wiki telling you exactly how to get this thing or something like that.
That is so true. That is a beautiful thing about indie games, is that you can't like depend on the wiki to help you. It's almost a recreation of what games were like when I was a kid, and I'm sure when you were much younger than me. Like
it's like an exploration,
figuring out games called Explorers.
Yeah. And also, to make MK's benefit, he's an extremely charitable guy. He's been a top dude since I met him on the Realms Deep thing.
He's got like 1 million children. Like, that's the thing about him, is like he has all this time. Like he creates all these amazing things and is he participates in the community so much. And I know that at the end of the day, he's got 7 screaming children running around his house.
Maybe they are just as wonderful as him. Yeah.
They have to be. There's no way. Like with genes like that, with so we're closing in on like the hour and a half mark here, and I just want to get my last like real question to you, and I'll let you go because I know it's late there.
No, it's fine. I'm a night owl, and it's Sunday tomorrow. So, but anyway, I actually remembered now that I forgot to complete who were working on the game with me.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I want to highlight. Let's see, we have Reki, of course, who mentioned before, who made a lot of the gameplay additions, like cooperative modes with health pools and life and stuff like that, and HUD items. And then we have also Creator, who is pretty common name in the Quake community. He's working on models for the game. And Rennie, I think, deserves... Well, Reki, he's working on his own game on the side, as well as Rennie. Rennie is making the Quake game, the Ascension of Vigil, which is actually a platformer, kind of like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Yeah, it's really cool. If anyone is interested in that, they should check it out. It's on ModDB, and he also has a YouTube channel. That's
awesome, man. I'm really digging. I think it's mostly Scumhead's fault, but the Castlevania, whatever you want, Metroidvania style within the FPS even lately has blown me away. And I love the classical, like Super Metroid's one of the best games ever made. Obviously Castlevania Symphony of the Night, like Bloodstained was a big one here recently. And then obviously Scumhead with Lycanthorn and Lycanthorn 2 were both like, wow, that's Jesus, dude. Come on. So
Scumhead is another one that doesn't seem to have a life outside of the making games.
I feel like I talk about him on every show now, but he's 20 years old. He lives maybe an hour and a half from me down, so I'm pretty close to him. But he literally has no life outside of game development. I mean, he's published 7, 8, 9 games, some shit like that, like in a few since he's been 16. You know, because he made a bunch of like RPG Maker games, like 4 of them I want to say, before he ever touched Doom. Made Shrine and Shrine 2, like he made Shrine within like a week of having played Doom 1. Yeah. Seriously. And then Lycanthorn 2, and Vomitorium now. So, and Vomitorium is just, we were talking about Metroidvania type stuff. Like he experimented with Lycanthorn and Lycanthorn 2 especially, and then now he's taking what he learned and he's making essentially his dream project. Like that's like his dream to make what will become Vomitorium. So I'm stoked to see what comes out of that project, man.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the 20s, I mean, you didn't have too much to worry about then, so had a lot more energy, I guess. But I don't want to. It's impressive how much he's been able to put out in such a short time. Yeah, it's incredible.
Well, his parents are very supportive, right? Like, so he still lives with his folks, as far as I know, and they're just like, you know, he put out his Kickstarter for $6,000 and he made $12,000. So, I mean, like, what are his parents going to say? Like, yeah, obviously this is working out for you, man. Just go ahead and keep doing it.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, I got to ask you like the last kind of closing thing that I wanted to ask you, which is so Doombringer feels like a game, and I know it's a first-person shooter, and I know you're an old school motherfucker who's like, you know, like the gameplay is what's important, but there is clearly like a environmental story going on here, right? So like you start off and you're kind of like working your way underground, and then you see the enemies, how they live and everything. We've talked about that earlier. And then we have this main character who's like got a monocle and a top hat, and I don't understand what the fuck all that's about. But I want you to kind of, if you are willing to, tell me about the story of Doombringer and like what is actually going on in this world.
Yeah. So, where should I begin? So the beginning, the monocle and top hat actually came quite early in the process. You know, when the game was about to be a bit more nonsensical. You know, like just grinding FPS with a lot of action and very little to take it seriously. But it has been what's the word? Retrofitted into working in with the story. Like the monocle is really when you press the scope, you zoom in, and that's the monocle that you get. So it's just a representation that since you can do that, there should be something on you, you know. But the top hat is actually sort of like a crown, and it has had a few ideas. So first, it was your crown, but now I'm more along the ways that I realized I was watching. Oh God, I'm yammering again. So I realized how much similarities actually this summer was between Doombringer and Snowpiercer.
Oh, okay, dig it.
So you have this bunker, you can say, which is in the middle of a wasteland. So the wasteland is called Ruin, and the bunker is called Selassie in this world by the people surrounding it. Then, so you have one people in the bunker, shielded from the sun. They have things like water and stuff like that, and outside you have the Brotherhood of Ruin, who don't have water. They have plenty of sun, and they bring out a champion to lead their people into the silo to reach the resources within from these people that has been terrorizing them, basically. So you have these people of haves and those of have-nots. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that the people, there's going to be a few more visual indicators as I managed to have them presented. The people of perceived haves don't have as much as you think, you know, like they cannibalize on other people, and they try to find their own escape from their own prison, you know. And whereas your clan is more protected from what they've been up to, you know, like losing their humanity, basically. So it's a lot about transhumanism involved there, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's nothing like concrete. Like I don't have a page by page write out of it. It's more like ideas and hinting at ideas to create an idea for a narrative. And I want to introduce a bit of poetry as well to set a tone more than set a narrative, you know.
Are you a poetry person? You like poems?
Well, I like art, in all
I
its.
like poetry. I'm embarrassingly almost, but like I really, really like poetry. So that's cool. I'm digging that.
I messed around with having a bit of poetry between level sequences in a previous project, but this time I figured I'd do it right. And so I asked Scarecrow to do the writing to make it less pretentious and stupid. So I'm gonna make these pointers and see if he can write up something that makes something deper from it.
So do you write poetry?
Not very often, because unfortunately I'm a very goal-oriented person
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time. So I have a hard time to work. I create projects that involve a lot of moving pieces, so I don't have to work on the same thing all the time, but still towards the same goal, And then I have a really hard time to break off from that, so I end up forsaking a lot of other things in my day-to-day life for focusing on this project to get it done, through the door.
Do you have a poem that you really like?
I actually do, but it's in Swedish.
That's okay. Can you find that? I want you to close this bitch out with a poem. Now I'm excited.
Give me a sec. I'll bring it up.
All my favorite poems are translated from Icelandic.
Okay, I can read it in Swedish, or I can try to translate it to English on the go. Which would you prefer?
Read it in Swedish and then translate it.
Okay. I'm going to get into my poetry mood here. So this one is called Ångest. Ångest är min arvedel. And it's translated to anxiety. Anxiety is my heritage. No, not a heritage. My legacy. Or a sort of combination of the part. Oh, heritage, legacy, something like that. Ångest. Ångest är min arvedel. Min strupes hår, min hjärta skri i världen. Nu styvnar löddrig sky i nattens grova hand. Nu stiga skogarna och stela höjder. Så kajt mot himlens förkrympta valv. Hur hårt är allt, hur stelnat svart och stilla. Jag famlar kring i denna dunkla rum. Jag känner klippans vassa kant mot mina fingrar. Jag river mina uppåtsträckta händer till blods mot molnens frusna trasor. Ack, mina naglar sliter jag från fingrarna. Mina händer river jag såriga ömma mot berg och mörknad skog, mot himlens svarta järn, mot den kalla jorden. Ångest, ångest är min arvedel. Min strupes hår, mitt hjärta skri i världen. So that translates to anxiety. Anxiety is my legacy. My what's it called? Neck. My neck's wound. My heart cry through the world. Now stiffens smoldering sky in the night's rough hand. Now rising the forest and stiff heights. So withered toward the sky's encroached vaults. How hard everything is. How stiffened, black and still. Yeah, it carries on like that. But it's a one that comes back into my mind frequently.
That's beautiful, man.
When things are a bit more rough, emotional. Yeah. But I really like Edgar Allan Poe, of course. And stuff like that.
I love Poe, man. I really I grew up on Edgar Allan Poe. I wouldn't really consider him a poet so much as a like a short story writer, but
Yeah, I think it's.
but I guess all words, written word is all technically poetry.
I mean, Raven is
Yeah,
a poem, basically.
fair enough.
But
All right, I've got one for you.
Hmm?
All right.
Hmm?
Bonus points if you can tell me who wrote this. It's very short. I was drunk. I was too drunk at Wise Fjallar's house. The best kind of feast is the one that you go home from with all your wits about you.
I think I'm gonna lose that bonus point. But that didn't sound like it was English from the beginning.
It is not. I can try to read it in Icelandic, but I don't think it's going to sound good. It's like Oler ek varð ok frovi at ins froda fjallars. Livi olver bast at apter of heimtir. Ver sit geth gumi. That's the original Icelandic version of it.
That did not sound much like Icelandic.
I'm a terror. I had no idea.
I'm very uncharitable towards you now. I'm sorry. But, have had a few Icelandic students, and I mean Icelandic language is so beautiful. So
I find it fantastic, but
the way
that is from the Havamal.
Yeah, I might have heard it sometime, but I can't quite recollect it now. But
I just think it applies to you and me right now because we've both been drinking too much.
Yep.
But the author obviously is attributed to Odin, and I don't know. I'm so fucking into that shit lately. Like, I don't know why. It's
I mean,
really like a great book of wisdom.
If you're into that, I recommend a movie called Korpenflyger. It's called in Swedish. It's The Flight of the Raven.
Send me a link.
It's an Icelandic film in Viking times. There's two movies, and The White Viking, When the Raven Flies, 1984. I think you'd love it.
I think I will too, man. Dude, this has been great, man. I've really enjoyed talking to you again. We should do it more often. I really can't wait for Doombringer to come out.
It's been a good chat. I'm not sure if it's a good podcast, but I've really enjoyed talking to you, Ty.
I know that based on what I've published before, I think our fans will find some goodness in this. And if they don't, they can skip it and go to the next episode and fuck them. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love all of our supporters. God bless them. But you've been fantastic. This has been a really enlightening and good conversation for me. And that's what the show's all about, really, is what I think of it.
That's the most important. Having fun while you do it.
Kristus for once again being part of the show. It was great to have him back on the show once again. If you haven't already heard it, go back and listen to our first interview. I don't remember what episode number it was, but you'll find it if you search for it on our website, winkinthekeep.com. If you like the show and you want to hear more content like this, we produce a couple of other podcasts. You can check out Doom is Dead podcast, hosted by Human Bones and Do Some from the multiplayer Doom Federation. They have made an excellent case for there needing to be a show where you just interview Doom people, because I don't already do that. I really don't. So, if you're just into the Doom stuff from here, you'll definitely like Doom is Dead. Also, you haven't seen it already, Burning Bridges with Bridge Burner, hosted by Bridge Burner, obviously. He's going to be also talking to all of the best people in level design, as an expert level designer himself. Check out everything he does. Follow him on Twitch, Twitter, all that good stuff, and make sure you check out the podcast. The first one was like the New Year's Eve thing with me and Spud Hunter, Devo, Major Arlene, King Dime. There's a lot of people in there. Eris Falling, Jimmy, and then his most recent episode is just him and General Vivi, Jason Mojica of Proteus, and that is an absolute banger of a podcast. Can't wait to see what we can do together as time goes on with that podcast. So check both those out. If you want to support In the Keep, though, on our inthekeep.com, you can find our support tab. You can also find our merch tab. There are a lot of different ways that you can help out. Not going to list them all off, but just, consider buying a t-shirt or becoming a Patreon supporter or whatever. Speaking of our Patreon supporters, got to say thank you to them. Paul, Moose, Dots, Zach, Alexander, Brad, Red Eyes, Green Dragon, Anthony, Robert, Jack, Brandy, Fred, Lord Revan, Tones, Igrek Simon, Immorpher, and a special I love you to Brahm, Maria, Yanin, and Jeffrey. All of these people are amazing, and they give a lot to the podcast. So, hell yeah. If you're wondering, the music that you're hearing right now is in fact from the soundtrack to Doombringer. It is created by none other than Primeval, who also does the music for Age of Hell, a few other projects I'm sure you're aware of. Give him some love. Check out his Bandcamp page. I'm going to link you to his Twitter, and I'm sure you can find everything from there. But he's an amazing up-and-coming musician who's doing a lot of good stuff. Maybe the next Andrew Holschult. Maybe the next Marquee Music. Maybe just Primeval. I don't know. But what I do know is this. I'll see you next week. Till next time, stay in the keep.